Hi, this is Chappiness guy. Welcome to today's episode of Vestibular Talks. Today's special guest is Jen, also known in Instagram as the Grounded Girl. She's going to talk to us about how a chronic condition basically showed up and changed her life completely, but she had to take a natural health approach in order to deal with it and regain her health. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the episode, guys. Find your chappiness. All right, Jen, how are you today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for being part of this episode of Vestibular Talks. I really appreciate you taking the time to raise some awareness.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing it.
Oh, my pleasure. Jen, would you mind telling us a little bit about who you are and how your journey began?
Okay, well, I am a mom of four. I had four kids in 4 years, and I'm a pharmacist and I'm a yoga teacher.
Nice.
So I'm always pretty busy, four kids, and I'm 42 now, about to be 43. When I guess it would be 41. So about 18 months ago or so. Um, I had always my whole life, now that I know about vestibular disorders, I can, pick out the symptoms. Like I could see it building up to what finally came to be. But yeah, like why am I dizzy? Why I always thought I had blood sugar issues. I would be going to the doctor like if I don't eat, I'm so dizzy, and we would test my blood sugar and my blood sugar would be fine. And so, I'm a pharmacist, so I was been trained to kind of, read the medical literature and navigate at least through that world a little bit. So, I kind of self-diagnosing myself a little bit along the way, but vestibular issues are so, rare. And even when you go to an expert, a neurologist or neuro-otologist, they don't even, like I've been and not been like left still, nobody knows what's wrong with me. And so it's like if an expert in that field doesn't diagnose you, you don't know what to look for. You don't know that it even exists. So I spent many years just like, why don't I feel good? I teach yoga, I teach fitness classes, I eat perfectly. I was vegan for many years. I always like keeping up with the latest, like this is the healthiest, this is the best macro ratio, these are the best micronutrients, this is the vitamin you need, like I did everything I could possibly do to be, the healthiest I could be. And here I was like feeling worse until one day it all just exploded in my face. I actually was going to one of those IV clinics, the IV like vitamin, they have them
Yeah,
everywhere
yeah,
here in the
yeah.
United States. Yeah. And so I went to one of those thinking like, okay, I'm going to get one of these IVs and this is going to help. Like, everybody loves these IVs. This is going to be great. So I go and they were like, well, let's put some extra calcium in this. Maybe you need calcium and some B12 and we're just going to load you up and you're going to be great. Little did I know that I believe a big part of vestibular migraines, at least, is electrolyte balancing. So
Yes.
little did I know that when I, get an unnecessary IV full of electrolytes, it just blew me out. So I left that place, started feeling my normal like weirdness, but I'm just thinking like, okay, I just need to eat lunch. I just need to eat lunch. So I was going to get my hair done. So I'm like eating in my car on the way. By the time I get to the hair salon, I mean, everything is like womp, 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 spinning around me. Like, I'm like, am I dying? Am I out of my body? Like, where am I? Because every vestibular symptom hit at once, like the derealization, depersonalization, vertigo, internal tremors. It all hit like right then and there in the hair salon. And I'm like, I must be dying. And I remember looking across the salon at the signs and I'm like, just I'm like, am I losing my vision? Can I not read that? Why can't I read that? What does that say? And then like when I would squint my eyes and read the words, but not be able to process, like, what does that mean? What am I even reading? What is going on? So I kind of just was like, okay, maybe it was the IV, it'll get better. And it kind of got a little bit better over the next few days, but that like really derealization, depersonalization was just like full effect. So I'm going to the doctor and I'm like, I feel like I'm not in my body. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I feel like everything's happening, but I don't know, I'm not here for it. I don't know how to explain it. And they're just like, oh, it's brain fog. You're 41, your hormones, blah, 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 blah. It's brain fog. And I'm like, no, I know what brain fog is. And don't get me wrong, I have brain fog. This is not brain fog. Like I am not here. I am floating away, looking down at you, talking to me. We are not on the same plane anymore. I don't know what's going on. And they're just like, well, maybe you need some antidepressants. Maybe, how are the kids? I'm like, no. That's not what I need. So I go home, and the next day I start driving my kids to school, and I'm just like, just focus on the road. I mean, it is worse than like drinking 3 bottles of wine and trying to drive.
Oh yeah.
Focus on the lines, get them to school alive, and then pull over and call 911. So I get them to school, I pull over, I call 911. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be conscious by the time you guys get here, because I feel like I am gone. Like, we're gone. We're out. We are in the next dimension. So they're like, okay, where are you? What does your car look like? Blah, blah, blah. So I get there and they automatically go towards like, are you having a cardiac event? I'm like, I'm not having cardiac. Like, I got my heart rate monitor on. I'm not having a cardiac event. This is something, I don't know what's going on, but it's something like in my head. I almost feel like I'm having a seizure, but I'm not shaking. But I was kind of like, you get the internal vibration, like I'm kind of shaking. So maybe it's a seizure. So they go to the ER. I mean, they do everything like MRI, CAT scans, this, that, whatever. And they're just like, I don't know, you're fine. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, what do you mean? This has to be something. They're like, I mean, we can give you some Xanax and send you on your way. I'm like, I mean, like, what are you talking about? So then I went on and on, doctors, functional medicine, go to Boston, go to this doctor, nothing. And then, so finally, like in one of my searches, I came across like one of the vestibular migraine groups, and I'm like, this is it. This is I hit every single check. This is it. So call the doctor, and they're just like, vestibular, I don't know, like go see another neurologist. This doctor knows. So I get on this wait list for this neurologist here in Florida, because we just moved from Charleston to Florida. And I waited and waited. And like when you're really sick and you're like, can barely get out of bed, you're just waiting for every doctor appointment. Like you're thinking like, okay, this one, they're going to help me. I'm good. If I can just make it to this appointment, they're going to know, they're the expert. And I get there, and I had already started the Stanton migraine protocol. So I can go into all the protocols I've tried, because I've tried all of them. But I had just started maybe like a week into the Stanton migraine protocol, and was like finally seeing some light after 18 months of horrid hell. I'm finally like, wow, okay, wait. I was convinced I had MS. That was my scariest thing, because I had to sleep with weighted blankets, towels, headbands, just to keep like the shaking. Like there can be no other explanation in my head. I was like, this is it. It's got to be like MS or some serious neurodegenerative disease, and I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be in a wheelchair. I don't know, but we're out. Like this isn't good. So I finally get to this guy's appointment after starting the Stanton migraine protocol, and he says, he does all the tests, like leaning you over, this, that, looking in your eyes, looked at my MRIs, looking at my CAT scans, and he's like, yeah, you probably have either vestibular, migraine, or Meniere's. He goes, so what we're going to do is cut out all the salt, put you on antidepressant, which I didn't want to do, put you on birth control, which I didn't want to do. I've already been on, I'm like 41 years old. And see how you do. And I'm like, well, first of all, I actually was like no salt vegan when I got myself into this mess. So I finally started adding salt, and I feel like 1,000,000% better. So the expert says, oh, well then I guess you don't have what I thought you had. So you probably just have vestibular migraine. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing then. And I'm like, seriously? Like my options are antidepressant, birth control, and figure it out myself. Like this is like the world-renowned expert on vestibular migraine. I'm like, okay, great. So I did. I just kept like, this was June. So where are we at now? April. Yeah. I mean, I'm 10 months into this. So I started with that protocol. That was really the one that gave me any relief after all of them. Heal Your Headache, medical medium, elimination, autoimmune paleo. So that kind of and it took time. It took right away. I felt better, but then it took months to kind of slowly lift the deep realization, lift the deep personal, feel like I could sleep at night. That was the worst, the sleeping. Yes. I remember sleeping on the bathroom floor because I would be shivering, and I would just roll over into the shower and put the water on hot, as hot as it could, because my body temperature regulation was so off. I was freezing. Yes. And so those nights were the worst. And I actually did take a couple Xanaxes that I got from the ER to get through some of those nights, because it was impossible. Your heart's racing, everything, you're shaking. And so where was I? So I'd been chugging along at that protocol, and I've kind of modified it to myself. I don't really follow it as strictly anymore. I think, there's not one thing for everybody, obviously. And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble with these one trick pony doctors, or specialists, or protocols, or, they think that this is it, this is the way. And it's not for everybody, because even on the Stanton, when I followed the Stanton protocol, it's basically a low carb. The general protocol is a low carb, high fat, which I think for people with any type of migraine, if you understand the pathophysiology of migraine, it's a good start. She's a biochemist. She has vestibular migraines herself. So I think it's definitely low carb, high fat, keto, carnivore, that camp of eating, let's just say that, with electrolyte balancing, for me, has been game changing. That is where it's at for me. And I get really frustrated online. There's a lot of people, I think, with vestibular issues that are giving out advice, things that have worked for them. And I think it's definitely dangerous to put everybody in one camp. So I don't want people to watch this and be like, oh, she did this, it worked for her, that's the way it's gonna work for me. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm not your doctor. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just an expert in me, what works for me. I've tested it all. So just obviously keep that in mind with what I'm saying.
Jen, so many good things you said. So I read the Stanton Protocol book, the Treating Migraine Epidemic without Medication, is what she called the book. I agree with you. Not every protocol works for everybody, and you gotta modify little things. For example, she recommends drinking milk, cow's milk. I don't drink milk because lactose is inflammatory. Right. But I do the salt and water. And I bought something called 40,000 volts electrolyte mixture. So I put that with water and I drink that as well. And I do feel better. The medical medium, same thing. I do the celery juice. I do it for a week, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. But he kind of recommends eliminating meat if you can. He's not against it, but he says eliminate it if you can. I do eat meat. I feel that meat, beef and chicken, no pork. Beef and chicken make me feel a little bit better too. So I think you're completely right. And the elimination diet, the migraine elimination diet, I had to modify it as well in order to fit my needs and what I felt worked for me. So I think you're 100% correct. The other thing that you mentioned that is quite interesting is, yes, when we're going through these crazy symptoms, because they are crazy, they make you think that you're losing your mind, because the whole derealization and depersonalization, you feel like you're in a dream-like state, like you're outside of your body, seeing your life in front of you while you're somewhere up here. So it's really hard to explain that to anybody. And when you explain it to a doctor, most doctors are like I don't get it. And they are supposed to be the experts, but they don't relate to it. They don't seem to understand it. So I completely understand your frustration when you went to see doctors and they kind of basically brush you off, saying, well, do whatever you're doing and good luck, because I experienced the same thing. I went to a neurologist with my hopes and my expectations up here, thinking, okay, this guy is going to help me. And he basically just said, well, try this pill. If it doesn't work, try this pill. If it doesn't work, try this pill. If it doesn't work, good luck. And I'm
Hmm.
like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean good luck? Like, we're going through visual symptoms, the visual aura, like the dizziness, the vertigo, the of balance, the anxiety, the fear, the panic attacks, the not being able to sleep. I completely relate to that. When you said the vibration inside of you, like that you're shaking inside, completely relate to that. The fact that we get so cold. I was always hot. Like I'm from Colombia, and I don't know if that influences anything, but my body's always hot. When this hit me, Jen, I was always freezing. Even in the middle of the summer, I will have jackets on and I have mittens on, and I'll be under the blankets shivering. And my wife was like, "What's wrong with you? It's freaking hot outside." And I'm like, "I'm freezing right now." So all your symptoms, Jen, are so on point and so relatable. And what frustrates me more about your specific case is that in theory this shouldn't have happened to you, because
Right.
you are the poster child of good health. You were doing yoga, you were exercising, you were eating right, you were taking care of yourself, you were hydrating yourself. So excuse my language, but why the f did this happen to you? I mean, I get it why it happened to me. I wasn't eating healthy. I was eating a bunch of fried food. I wasn't sleeping properly. I was staying up at all hours of the night. So I kind of blame myself a little. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't taking care of my body. But you were doing everything by the book in order to be healthy. So I can imagine how hard it must have been for you to be like, why did this happen to me when I was doing everything right?
I think, and I've noticed this when I follow a lot of vestibular people, I definitely think there's um, a psychological, spiritual side to it as well, like a stress, how you handle your stress. I've read lots of books, and one doctor, Dr. Stephen Cabral, I really looked up to him. He has this theory on disease where, it's kind of like a rain barrel, and the rain barrel's fine as the rain's coming in, but once that last drop of rain that can fit in the barrel comes in, everything tips over. And so it was kind of like I had these 4 kids in 4 years, and it was so stressful. I mean, like, people have a hard time having a newborn. Well, I had a newborn, and then a year later I had another newborn, and then it's like another year later I had another one. So I had like a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, a newborn, and then by the 4th year I had a newborn, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old. So it was like I always had a newborn. I always had a terrible twos. I always was potty training somebody. And I always kind of chose, like, I'm definitely, I don't, almost like obsessive personality. Like I had to go to pharmacy school. I had to get all A's. While I'm in pharmacy school, I have to wake up at first thing in the morning and run 7 miles, and I have to be in the best shape, and I have to, if I'm going somewhere, like, I have to have my outfit, I have to have everything together. Like, everything always has to be like this. If I'm going, I am like, go big or go home. I'm not just going. I'm not going halfway. Like, we are going. We are winning. We are the winner. And so looking like genetically, my mom had migraines. My family on that side had pancreas issues, which I think, the metabolic part of the migraine disease definitely is in play for me with the pancreas and the blood sugar regulation and everything like that. So my mom actually died of pancreatic cancer when I turned 40. She was my best friend. She was everything to me. And so that was like a huge blow, I think. And how I kind of handled that probably wasn't the best. So I think like that, my genetics is like a drop in my rain barrel. My high stress, like, go big or go home attitude was definitely a few raindrops in my barrel. And then when she died, that was like definitely like just filled the barrel up,
The last one, yeah.
tipped it over. And so I think, that IV I did, it was like the barrel was like this, like it was about to pour over. And then I just did that IV to screw up my electrolytes, and like, boom, everything, and I have, like, looking back, things when you were growing up, you didn't know, like, we all took antibiotics for acne when I was a teenager. Like, we all did. It's like, whatever, you got a zit, take some antibiotics. You got an earache, take some antibiotics, so like, even in my time frame growing up, like, teenage girls, I mean, if you had any type of cramp, you go to the doctor, they put you on birth control, like, automatically, like, that's just what we do, get rid of the. And so now we know these things, kind of loosen up your gut. So that is one thing I think about the way that I'm eating now, which is helping me, is because I definitely think I created a lot of leaky gut with my antibiotic use, my birth control use. And so when this hit me, I didn't know at the time, now eliminating so many foods. I mean, I'm basically down to like, I just eat, this is horrible because being a former vegan, it's like, oh my God, I just want to die. But I just eat like beef and very few amount of plants. Like my symptoms react so bad to the plants. And so the more vegan I was, the more celery juice I was doing, the more I was trying to fix myself, the worse I got. I mean, there were like times where, thank God, COVID hit and my kids had to stay at home because I couldn't have driven them to school. Yeah. Like I would pull myself out of bed, like get them through their homeschool. And then just, I mean, I don't even know how I survived that year, honestly, with like kids. And I was constantly calling an ambulance. I'm like, I think I'm dying again, you know, like I don't know what's going on. So I once I got into that protocol, it eliminated a lot of the foods I was eating, a lot of the plant foods that I now know I was reacting to. And I think that's a common theme. I think part of mine is autoimmune. And so, you know, a lot of people with autoimmune issues have to eliminate plants for a certain amount of time. I'm not saying forever. I definitely believe humans should optimally be omnivores. I'm not saying, you know, whoa, only meat forever. I'm saying, you know, whatever it takes for you to heal yourself is probably going to be, I mean, as extremely sick as we were, it's going to be an extreme measure you're going to have to take to heal yourself. You're not like moderation. You're not going to be able to just eat like everyone else in moderation to get better. So I'm eating a lot of red meat now. Not a lot in quantity, but I mean, like that's the majority of my diet. And a small amount of, like, I've had to test it out. I will react to like lettuce. I'll react to spinach. I'll react to kale. Like I got my little berries that I don't react to. Even blueberries, strawberries, I react to those. Like I'll be dizzy for 2 days, 3 days after I eat them. So I got my small group of foods that I eat. And I'm like, I think I'm going to stay this path for like maybe 6 months and then add another one in, you know. I feel so good now with what I'm doing that I'm so hesitant to add things back in, but I know optimally to be getting all the vitamins and nutrients I need, I have to, but it's hard. I think like another thing, it's people don't understand how debilitating vestibular symptoms are, because you look like a normal person. You look fine. Like everyone's like, you look great. You know, even when you go to the doctor and they look at your labs, like I said, I was vegan, I was yoga, my labs were perfect. I mean, my doctor was like, I don't want you to tell you to do anything else, because I couldn't ask for better labs from a patient. But I'm like, it doesn't matter to me what my labs look like when I can't function. I would almost rather be dead. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't really care. So I know that I probably don't have the best lab work now, eating red meat 3 times a day. But it's like, what's the alternative? You know, eat the kale and feel like not functional.
No, you're right. And a few very interesting points. For a while there, during my elimination diet, I was basically just eating grass and water because I eliminated everything. And I noticed that for a few months, spinach, kale, beets were affecting me hugely. Now I can eat them again because I eliminated them for 4 or 5 months, and then I started introducing them slowly again, and I can eat them again. I cannot eat seeds like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. They make me really dizzy. And something else that you said that is very interesting, that you were this high achiever, you were this type A personality. A lot of us were like that too, that we were on top of the world, the best career, the best job, the best marks in school, the best life. And this kind of like tumbled all of that down, like this hit us to bring us back down to the ground, to like below level 0, because this, Jen, as you're saying, vestibular symptoms, I don't wish them on anybody. And even I have a friend that she suffers from MS, and her MS is quite advanced, and she experienced 2 weeks of vertigo, and she was crying every day, and she called me and she said, I don't know how you guys with vestibular symptoms do this, because she's like, I would rather deal with every symptom of MS all day long than with this crazy vertigo for these past 2 weeks. She's like, I don't want this ever again. So people don't understand the complexity and how debilitating and the impact that this has in our lives. Jen, like, you're right. Driving, it's terrifying. It is terrifying because you feel like you're not in control of the car. Your eyes can focus. When you feel cars moving in your peripheral vision, you feel like you're doing this. When you stop the car and you stop on the brake, you have the sensation inside of you that the car is still moving, that the car is still going forward.
So
Yes. So it's yeah.
I have a good friend who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she's doing better now. But she was going through chemotherapy and a lot of treatments, and the prognosis was not great. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, a person with stage 4 cancer that has like 16% chance of living is living better than me. Like after chemotherapy, she is still able to walk, drive, like in a better condition than I am. It's crazy. And I think one of the books, I think it's that neurologist in Texas that a lot of vestibular people go to. He just put out a vestibular migraine book last year. I was in his book that he said that next to ALS, like Lou Gehrig's disease, where basically like, you know, your body you can't move except for your head and your face. Vestibular migraine is the next debilitating condition because I mean it's like you can't do anything. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't pick up the phone and dial a phone number. You're like, hang on, let me look. Wait, what's the phone number? Everything's, you know, I mean, it's like you can't think. You can't. I remember when I first started kind of crawling out little by little, started balancing my electrolytes, started eliminating foods, like kind of stepping my toe back into life, which was like last June, July. People talking to me and not understanding anything they're saying, but just wanting to be active participant in my life. So I would just like stare at their forehead and just be like, please don't ask me a question. Just nod and pretend like, you know, you're there and we're in it. And then, you know, I kind of started like baby steps, like, okay, I would go to the pool in our neighborhood, but I always would like bring my own food, bring my own salt, bring my own water. I still do that. I still, to this day, pretty much bring like my own food, my own salt, my own, like everywhere I go, which is like, it's not the funnest, but at least I'm back. And I mean, I'm back to teaching yoga. I wasn't able to work out for like a year plus, which was another hard thing because I was always, you know, in good shape, trying to be in good shape. When this hit, I gained like 20 pounds. It was like, I hate to be like vain, but it was like soul crushing. I'm like, I worked my whole life to be in like great shape. And that's what I was doing for a living. And then here I can't even like walk to the kitchen. And it wasn't even like I was eating unhealthy. Really, I've gotten to a point where I don't even care about food. I'm like, just tell me what to eat to feel good and I'll eat it. I don't care. I mean, I even told my doctor when I went to the neurologist, I'm like, I'm not joking with you. If you told me eat dog poop for the rest of your life and you'll feel normal, I'm like, I'll do it. I just want to feel normal. I don't care. Like food to me, it's like, whatever. I don't care. Like, I don't care what I eat as long as I feel okay. And so it's like those type of little things, trying to get back into life. Like, okay, we're all going to go to dinner, but I mean, I'm not going to have wine anymore. So now I look like the weirdo, but it's like, it's not, to me now, having like one drop of vestibular symptoms is not worth it. So it's like,
I know.
Another trigger for me besides like plant foods is if I work out too hard, which sucks because I mean, that was my whole MO. I'm like working out hard every day, running miles and miles and miles. And now it's like yoga, walking. If I even push it too hard in my yoga classes that I teach, I'll be dizzy for like 2 days. So I'm kind of like on a contingency plan with them. Like I could teach as long as I don't make myself too dizzy the day before. Because I'm at a point now where if I do something stupid, if I go out and eat, you know, something that doesn't agree with me, or if I work out too hard, I mean, those are my two things. Or for my hormones, like being a woman, my time of the month, that's also could trigger it. Yeah. So if one of those things hits, I'm at a point now where I know my recovery time. It's about a day. If it's really bad, it's 2 days. And even then, my symptoms are like not anywhere near what they used to be. I mean, they're maybe like 20% of what they used to be, or even 10, even like 5-10%. But that even just like that little bit of like, that little bit of depersonalization, that little bit of derealization, or that little bit of dizziness is like, no, I don't want it. There's nothing in the world worth that to me. So
I agree with you. Something very interesting that you mentioned, and I'm curious about it, is you said your mom, and I'm sorry for your loss, your mom passed away because of pancreatic cancer. And you mentioned that you've been always kind of like concerned about pancreas issues. Interesting enough, when this hit me, the doctors didn't know what the heck was happening with me. And I went to at least 12 different doctors. So they were doing MRIs, they were doing CAT scans, they were doing every possible test in me because the doctor is like, I honestly have no idea what's going on with you. So eventually they found cysts in my pancreas. So now that you're mentioning this about the whole the metabolism symptoms related to migraine, the pancreas, I'm like, that's very curious because I never ever related the pancreas having anything to do with the symptoms. But yes, they did find a cyst in my pancreas. They followed up with it. They asked me to eliminate any fried foods, any carbs. Well, not every carbs, but gluten, things like that, which I was fine with. I don't care about gluten stuff. So after a follow-up of 8 months, the cysts started decreasing in size, and the doctor said, yeah, they are disappearing. But you got me curious now if there might be a connection between the two.
There's
Like,
100% a connection, and I didn't realize it until I read the Stanton book, and she's really big on the blood sugar regulation, and so like everything she kind of said in there was like, oh my gosh, yes. But that is why she recommends like the low carb, high fat, or the keto type, because most migraineurs, what they call them, have some type of insulin resistance, disposition to diabetes, some type of metabolic condition that's tied in with migraine. And so the research really isn't there yet. I mean, she's done some research on it, and I don't want to speak incorrectly, but there's definitely a tie with people who get migraine. And migraine is migraine. She says it doesn't matter if it's vestibular or like migraine with the aura, which I had once my vestibular symptoms hit. All of a sudden I'm popping like auras out my eyes and all this other crazy stuff. But I think for me, again, like personally, me and my genetic predisposition and my metabolic symptoms, that's why like the carnivore keto works, because I'm not eating very many carbs. I eat some cucumbers, I eat some blueberries, I eat some blackberries. That's about it. And my diet when this hit me was vegan. I mean, it was all carbs. It was all fruit and veggies. And I was not a junk food vegan. Like I didn't eat soy. I did not eat any processed products. I wasn't eating burritos, rice, blah, blah, blah. I was mainly like juices, greens, smoothies, like fresh fruits and vegetables, all organic. Like I said, like I go hard. I don't screw around. Like I was vegan. I was like the healthy vegan. I wasn't the processed junk food vegan.
yeah.
But so I definitely knew that wasn't, I mean, I think some people can heal that way probably. And I don't know migraine. I'm not really knowing the pathophysiology of migraine now and the metabolic component and the blood sugar dysregulation and the insulin resistance. Do I think people can heal their vestibular migraine on a vegan diet? Probably not, but because you're just eating carbs, you know.
Yes.
And
And,
you have
a lot of processed sugars because they eat a lot of bread, they eat soy, and soy is not good for migraines. So yes.
Well, even just the fruit. I mean, you don't realize it. And as a vegan, that was like a huge part of my diet. And sugar. You know, your body, like biochemically, sugar. It doesn't matter if it comes from a blueberry. I mean, blueberry may have enzymes, may have micronutrients, may have vitamins that are beneficial versus candy. But I mean, you still have to, just because it's a blackberry doesn't mean you can eat 5,000 of them and, you know, get rid of your migraines. So for me, definitely getting my insulin resistance in check, I think is a big part of it. Yeah. I attempt.
And that's part of what gets confusing, because before I read the Stanton protocol book, I read the medical medium books, and he says, eat lots of fruits. So I was eating fruits like I was a monkey in the jungle, like just everything, mangoes, pears, apples, blueberries, like I was just eating and eating foods, and I wasn't feeling better. But when I read the Stanton protocol, she says, no, careful with fruits, because they're like, yeah, you can do fruits every now and then, but don't eat them like in excess. So when I push back to fruits, I started feeling a little bit better too. So as you say, every diet has you can pick and choose what works for you specifically. Now, Jen, speaking of the medical medium, he is big about saying that these kind of conditions and many other conditions come from the Epstein-Barr virus, that a viral infection messes up with our system and starts attacking our organs from the inside out, making us suffer from how does it call it? Immunodeficit something like that, like immune conditions, autoimmune conditions, basically. So, what do you think? What's your perspective on this whole Epstein-Barr virus?
I think probably that's a component. So when I talked about that rain barrel before, I think the Epstein-Barr is one of the raindrops. It might be a big raindrop for some people, but again, so the Epstein-Barr. So let's say you this is caused by your Epstein-Barr virus. Let's just say. I mean, I don't think that everyone's been exposed to Epstein-Barr, so I don't think that is the thing that did it. Like, I don't think that's the direct result. I think it's one of it. So it's like your genetics, what you've been eating, the toxins that you've been exposed to your whole life, your stress level, your spiritual health, and then Epstein-Barr. That's one of them in there. But it's kind of like, to me, so I was on medical medium when I got, like, I was doing the celery juice, I was doing the heavy metal smoothies when I got my vestibular symptoms. So it's hard for me to say that that's going to help when I was already doing that. For me, it may help some people. I know it's also a lot of people that are proponents of that are also on antidepressants and took nortriptyline for years. And so it's like, you can't say the celery juice did it when you're also taking that, like a lot of. So I feel like with the Epstein-Barr, so say the Epstein-Barr attacks your vestibular nerve, and now you have this vestibular damage and you're experiencing vestibular symptoms. For me, it's kind of like getting a cut, like a huge gash, needing stitches, not getting the stitches, the cut closes up on its own, you have this nasty scar, and then going to the doctor and being like, wait, I need stitches. It's too late. The damage is done. So you killing the virus with celery juice and fruit is fine. Okay, eliminate the virus. That's great. I mean, there are other ways to do it. There are definitely other ways to get rid of a virus than celery juice and oregano smoothies like loaded with sugar all day. But that's not going to be like, your vestibular nerve is going to be like, oh, wait, celery juice coming in. Yep, better now. That fixed me. The damage is done. So now we have this condition that we have to balance, we have to fix. And so we have to like kind of heal the whole body. And how do we do that? We stop the toxins, we stop the stress, we stop the foods that are causing our symptoms, and we get that rain barrel from being tipped all the way over kind of back up straight. And we spend the rest of our lives trying to not fill it back up again, is what I personally.
No, agree. Now, Jen, what about medication? I know you said that they offer you antidepressants. You didn't want to take them. I didn't take any medication for the first 9 months of this condition, and it was hell. Then they gave me a calcium channel blocker. It helped, but it started becoming very addictive. Like if I miss the pill one day, the symptoms will come crashing right away. And it's one of the side effects is Parkinson's disease. So the doctor was like, yeah, you're getting pretty bad with this. They removed it. They got me nortriptyline. Nortriptyline has helped. I was always opposed to antidepressants. I said, but I'm not depressed. Like, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm always outgoing. I'm always smiling. And the doctor is like, the reason why we give you antidepressants is for 2 reasons. One, it suppresses your vestibular system a little bit, makes it a little bit dormant in order for you to function every day. And number 2, it allows that anxiety to kind of like come down a notch. So your body goes from your sympathetic state of mind to your parasympathetic, where you're able to start healing and recovering. So I feel I have improved with the nortriptyline. I've been on it for 4 months now, and I feel the difference. What do you feel about medications? What's the place with medications in your life?
In my life, I didn't take any. I did take, so I took rescue metoprolol, like the beta blocker, because with my like temperature dysregulation, I had a really hard time in the beginning regulating my heart rate. It would just like shoot. And that was the other part of it that the doctors didn't understand, was like, oh, like they think you're a head case. They think you're nuts. And I'm like, listen, I'm not thinking about anything that's making me anxious. Like, my mom died, and I think that was definitely like a blow to me, like I said, but I wasn't like holed up in my room, like crazy, anxious, depressed. Like, that's not the type of person I was. Even when bad things happen, I don't like dwell on them. So I'm trying to tell the doctor, I'm not anxious. I'm looking down at my heart rate and I'm resting. It should be 65, 75. and it's 146. Like, I'm not anxious. My heart is just racing. They just, I mean, it wasn't a psychological thing. It was like a physiological thing, you know? And I'm like trying to tell them that. I'm like, this is a physiological condition. This is not, I am not crazy. Like, you know, I'm like, so I did take, and I did take the Toprol whenever like my heart rate would get too high, because when I first had my last child, so that was about 2014, 2015, I was doing yoga again because I had to get like right back in great shape as soon as I popped him out. Like, I couldn't, you know, not me. So I'm doing this crazy yoga. He was a baby, and I flipped down from a headstand, and all of a sudden, like, I was so dizzy, and I just feel it's like don't, and I look at my heart rate monitor, and it's like 180, and I'm like, F you, ski. Like, whoa, this is bad. So I'm like, all right, calm down, start walking around. And again, it's a physiological thing. Like, I couldn't calm it down. It wasn't caused by me getting excited over something. It was, you know, I think it was my vagus. I think my vagus and my vestibular are, and that's something else we could talk about, the neck and the cranial nerves. But I definitely had some neck issues going on, and so I think my vestibular and my vagus were getting squeezed in there. So I was having a hard time regulating my heart rate, which a lot of vestibular people do. I see that online. Yep. So I really only took the metoprolol once, like I would hit 150. Like I would try to control it, because like you said, you take the drugs and it's not, you're not off the hook. There's a side effect, you know? So it's like, okay, so now I take it, and I typically run, which a lot of migraine people do, low blood pressure, low pulse. So I know that if I take that metoprolol tomorrow, my pulse is going to be 43, and I'm going to be like, shoot, I can't go to bed with the 43. What if I don't wake up, you know? Yeah. So the metoprolol, and then they gave me 30 Xanaxes. I took maybe like 2 of them on really bad nights when I was having like aura, like, and that was one clue that this was migraine related. I never even would have thought vestibular was a migraine type, was when I started getting the auras, and I'm like, wait a second, do I have migraines? Like, what is going on with me? Because I never really had the excruciating pain. I mean, I had some pain, but I would take, and people, you know, they don't believe you, but I'm like, I would take the worst migraine pain in my life over this. I would take, I had some pretty rough childbirth. I would give birth to 10 children every day versus any of these symptoms. It's like, I feel like after going through this, and here comes like my type A personality, I'm like, I am like strong. Like, you cannot do anything to me. Like, I've survived the worst. Like, come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're right. A lot of these medications bring your blood pressure down and your pulse down. So it's a risk, it's a side effect that people have to be very careful with, because they often get more dizzy because their blood pressure is so low.
You said calcium channel blocker, so there we are back with the electrolytes. Why did the calcium work for you? Because the calcium channel blocker, because it blocked your calcium channel. And a lot of migraine people, so what is the anti-mineral of calcium? Magnesium. A lot of migraine people need more magnesium. So when you block off your calcium, your magnesium's gone. So that's why it worked for you. And so I think knowing what your condition is, and knowing, that's why I say, like, Stanton, you know, she knows the biochemistry. And so you can't, you know, medical media might be talking to spirits, and I am a yoga teacher, I am woo-woo, but I am for the science. I am for the pathophysiology, understanding the disease. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Sorry, am I there?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think you have to understand the disease to treat it. So right, so they give you the calcium channel blocker, you need more magnesium. Well, why don't we just take more magnesium? You know, why don't we eat foods with less calcium? Why don't we need more salt? So migraine people with cranial nerve issues burn through their electrolytes faster. It's a neurological disease. We're burning through electrolytes. Our nerves are firing so much faster than everybody else's. So we're burning through all these electrolytes. so you have to understand that you can't be just like so many people online on the forums are just like sucking down celery juice and crossing their fingers, and I'll check back on them 6 months later and this poor girls and boys are still in bed, and I'm like, you can't, you got to understand this a little bit, and there's not much out there, and when you're going online and kind of like trying to figure it out yourself, it's so hard. And I was, like I said, I was a person who was educated in this, and it took me so long to figure it out, even going to experts. So I think like, so for the medications, I understand with the antidepressants, depressing the nerves to give them a little bit of break. I didn't do that. I did take some St. John's wort just because it clinical studies. I mean, it's pretty high up there, efficacy with some of those old. I mean, nortriptyline's old as can be. It's one of the oldest like tricyclic antidepressants there is. So I did that. Can I say that it really helped or not? I mean, no. I think really understanding like I said, understanding the disease and managing it with electrolytes, and definitely how I handle my stress and how I think, like I said before, like things that I used to think were so important and I had to be perfect and had to, I don't really care about anymore because I can't. I don't have that luxury of caring whether my hair looks good or not, or if it's going to stress me out. Can't do it anymore.
Well, your hair looks great, and you said you were 40, turning 43. I'm only 35. You look younger than me, and you're extremely fit. I've seen your Instagram. You're extremely fit. For a mom of 4, I was like, okay, wow, like, what is she doing? Because you look like so fit. So it's kudos on that. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jen, so now you said your vagus nerve, your vestibular nerve, and the neck. Yes. So when this started, my neck felt like I had a bunch of boulders, like rocks, and I would try to move it, and it would crack.
Yeah.
Or it would feel like it's grinding, like something was grinding here by my occipitals. And I went to different doctors. I spent $5,000 in different chiropractors, Nuka chiropractors, regular chiropractor, Cranium something chiropractor, and they all promised me, oh, after 16 visits, you'll be cured. Well, $5,000 later, nothing was improving. So I mean, maybe it works for some people. That doesn't work for everybody. However, that being said, I do believe in order to accomplish some sort of success with your treatments, you need to attack everything holistically. Like you were saying, your mind, your level of stress, your exercise levels, your calmness. A psychologist that I was seeing when this started, she said a lot of people with vestibular symptoms become OCD because they start obsessing about everything in order to make everything perfect so they can get better. So she said you have to take that down a notch and start seeing things by what they are and not by what you want them to be. The other thing, Jen, I started doing gargling with water every day, twice a day, to stimulate my vagus nerve. Also, breathing with humming, big breath, and then it starts stimulating your vagus nerve again. So those things, all of that allowed me to calm down. I started to look at yoga. I always thought that, sorry about this, don't get mad. I always thought that yoga was for hippies. But when I started doing it myself, I was like, holy crap, this works. And now I do it like it's a must that I do it every night before bed. I do it for about 40 minutes, and I feel the difference when I don't do it and I go to bed. I don't have the same type of sleep that when I do it and go to bed. I read about Wim Hof. I don't know if you know who Wim Hof is. He does cold therapy. So he does breathing exercises to basically get your system all ramped up, then exhale and hold your breath up to 2 to 3 minutes, and then take a freezing cold shower after that. What that's doing is triggering your reptile brain, your flight, fight, or freeze response for you to be able to control it. So it doesn't control you, but you control it, and that's health. So yes, Jen, I think you are 1,000% correct when you say that you have to incorporate different aspects of healing, your diet, the supplements, magnesium, in order to get better. So Now, what has helped you and what has not helped you?
One of the biggest things that I would say has taken me, I think I got myself to like 80-ish percent, 90-ish percent. When you've been feeling like 5%, like you'll take 80, 90%, like any day, you know, you're like, woo. But I think what has got me from like that 90 to 100 is cranial sacral therapy. And I have a girl in my town that does it who's what actually started with the founder of Cranial Sacral. So she's been doing it like 40, 50 years. So I don't know that if you just went to like Joe Blow down the street, you would get the same effects as me. I mean, but she can, I don't even tell her what I did. Like, I don't even tell her how I feel, what I did. If I throw something out, because everything is connected. Like, I know if I throw something out in my hip doing yoga, this over here, and then my vagus will get going, my heart rate will be off. And it's like, now I'm so tuned into this stuff. But if I'm feeling dizzy, so if I did do too hard of a yoga class and I'm feeling dizzy, if I go to her and I don't even tell her, if she's just in here feeling everything, oh yeah, this in here, this in here. I guess they somehow, I think it has something to do with your cerebrospinal fluid, that they can like palpitate in here and feel if there's a blockage in which nerve and everything like that. And she'll tell me like, oh, your vagus nerve is not happy. How's your heart rate? I'm like, it's freaking horrible. So she can just feel that by tapping in it. And they are cranial sacral experts. I mean, that's what they do. So for me, that has been like totally game changing. That took me to like 100%. I mean, now I most of the time, unless I do something stupid, I feel perfectly fine. And it's definitely part of it is due to that. I mean, cranial sacral. And when someone told me about, I was getting massages on my neck. I couldn't even touch my neck here. It was so sore. I was just like walking around like this. If you would like call my name, I would be like, yeah. And, you know, chiropractor's like, whoa, man, this is bad. And so I was actually at a chiropractor and they were like, you know what you would benefit from? This cranial sacral. I'm like, what? That sounds like woo-woo crazy. Like, how is someone going to feel my spinal fluid and my lymph system and my nerves just by touching my skin? That's crazy. And they're like, no, they know how to do it. So I'm like, whatever. I'm like, what do I have to lose? You know what? Screw it. What do I have to lose? So I went in feeling dizzy and I left like, and it's so powerful that part of one of my biggest, worst, hated vestibular symptoms were, even leading up into this for years, I would be driving and then like all of a sudden the signs would be blurry. And that's how I knew I was having a flare, because I lose my vision. And I'm like, whoa, am I going blind? You know, did I blind myself in the sun today? Like, what did I do? And sometimes when she rebalances me, I will be like, I will get that blindness for like when I leave for a little bit until everything like settles back down. And it's like they barely touch you, but that's how powerful it is. And that's how delicate these nerves are. And it's crazy. It's crazy it works. But I think if you can find someone good, it's extremely helpful. Like I have her booked every week through the end of July. I'm like, I don't, you know, so they don't take insurance. And I'm like, I don't care. Take my money, take it, take whatever you want. You know what I mean? You want my hearing?
Feel better. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. And it becomes a lot of times, because we're looking for anything to help, we start to spend money on everything.
Who even knows how much I spent that first year, like doctors, supplements. Oh my God, I was doing the celery juice all day long. I mean, I don't even know how much money. It's time consuming. Yeah. The price of celery juice is the least. It is like, you got to wash the celery, do the juicer, wash the juicer. I mean, it was like, oh my God.
Almost an hour just to get a cup of.
You'll do anything. I would do anything. That's what I said. I told the doctor I would eat dog poop. Whatever you tell me to do, it's so bad, I will do it.
And that's why I feel a little bit angry at people online when they say they got better and they are trying to sell a protocol or try to sell a treatment or try to sell something to people that are sick. Because I'm like, okay, I mean, I get everybody needs money to survive. I get it. But Jen, if those people know by experience how shitty this feels, and they know that people with these conditions often can work because they can hold a job because of all the symptoms, what makes these people feel like, okay, well, I'm going to charge them $2,000-$3,000 in order for me to teach them how to get better? I mean, again, I get it. People need to survive, and if they can capitalize on this, good for them. But I feel that is not fair, because if they were in that hell before, why don't they just help other people if apparently they have the magic pill that can help others? So it's I don't know. I find it a little bit conflicting in my own morals, I guess, because if I knew what helped people get better, I'll freaking be giving it away to everybody. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to keep suffering with this shit. Here, take it.
That's like I have gone on these forums and I feel so bad. I mean, there are people from when I was first, I was in these forums trying to like learn as much as I can, heal your headache, medical medium, this, that. And there's people that are still in there. Like I'll go in and check on them and they're still as sick as they were in June, still in bed. And I'm like, listen. Like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I have nothing to gain if you listen to me or not, but like this is the condition you have and these are the causes. Like we cannot deny that there's an electrolyte component. We cannot deny that your diet's going to have an effect on this. So you're still doing the same thing you were in June. It's not working. Like, wake up, honey. Like, I want you to be better. So I get really frustrated when I go on those forums because yeah, like you said, I mean, there are most people who have a forum and are trying to help people have like one way, it's like this one way worked and that's it. Like we all got to do the celery or we all got to do this. And it's like, oh yeah, this person's been on the celery. They've been on it since June. It's not working, and like, so that's when I kind of jumped ship on that one because I'm like, first of all, I was doing that when I got sick. So obviously, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out for me, that's not going to work. It might work for somebody else, but for me, and that's why I'm like, I'm not even trying to push people on a path. Like, you don't have to do keto. I mean, now keto does, my kids have seizures, which when they were little, I definitely think that that's the neurological thing I passed down to them, and they get migraines already. And it's interesting. It's just my girls. It's not my boys. So I'm kind of trying to get them away from the carbs, but they're kids. It's hard. But like with these other people, I'm like, I'm not even saying you have to do that. Just what you're doing isn't working. So do something, do anything. I mean, I'm doing extreme things, but you would only eat red meat 3 times a day if you've been down in the trenches where I've been. Like, I'm not doing this because I like it. I mean, the first couple months I was throwing up in the trash can every single time I ate meat because I hadn't eaten it for so many years. And I'm a yogi. Like, I do no harm. That's like the first tenet of yoga, like I can't be killing animals for me to eat, there's sentient beings, but I kind of got to a point where, like I said, it's like, I'll do anything. I'm so sick, it's either the cow or me. So I got 4 kids. I got to pick me.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. Jen, where can people find you?
I guess Instagram, The Grounded Girl. I teach yoga at the Ritz-Carlton here in Singer Island, and that's it. Yeah,
most people will probably reach out to you through Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, if you have questions, if you just are curious about anything I did, I definitely am here to help. I'm not, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. So if there's anyone I can help in any way, I'm here for it. Like, hit me up.
Yeah. Jen, what does the future hold for Jen?
I'm just getting my life back fully. Like, I'm just starting to teach yoga again. So I that's a huge part of my life. I kind of want to, from this point forward, maybe have a yoga studio, or maybe have like a health center where, we can maybe like reduce these rain barrel drops like I talked about, so that people never dump their bucket and get whatever they're predisposed to. Not everybody's going to get a vestibular symptom, but, let's not even get to that point, whatever disease is in store for us. Let's not even get there. So that's what I hope.
That'd be good, a good plan, because with your experience and now your knowledge of living this firsthand, you'll probably be able to guide some people on like, hey, this might work to reduce or decrease the stresses or the toxins that are attacking your body on a daily basis. So yeah. Jen, my last question to you is, as you know, the channel is called Find Your Chappiness. So find your happiness. How does Jen find her chappiness?
My kids, my family, my husband, the sun, the ocean.
The ocean, I love it. Any water. Yeah. I need to live either by a river or a lake or a pond or the ocean because I'm very, very connected with water. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely like I walk on the beach twice a day, like an hour each time. Like if I don't do it, I start getting crazy. Like I have to be in the sun. We live in South Florida now. Like sun is huge, huge for me.
And Jen, that's part of something that we didn't talk about, but I believe part of this healing process is also connecting with nature.
For sure.
I started going out, breathing, actually enjoying being surrounded by trees, by the forest, inhaling the air, walking without my shoes and without my socks on, just barefoot on the ground, and feeling like that connection. It does hold some power. Like people think that it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo gibberish, but it does hold some power. Like you
Yeah.
right away feel the difference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's huge.
All right, Jen. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You are an encyclopedia of knowledge. Like everything that you said is on point. And basically, but when you were describing your story, in my mind, I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Isn't it crazy?
So yeah, it's so crazy that we live so far apart, but we experience such similar realities. So it's and thank you for doing this, because I know your episode is going to bring a lot of awareness and hopefully spark that interest in someone that is going through these symptoms to start exploring these different areas to get better. Yeah, yeah.
It's working. Keep trying, people. Keep trying. You can heal. I never thought I could. I thought like I remember going to bed being like, God, if I die in my sleep, I won't be mad at you. Like I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
now here I am, like a regular person. So you can get there. Don't give up hope. You just gotta. It's not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy, but it's possible.
Consistency, yes. All right, Jen. Well, thank you so much and have a fantastic day, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.